In March of 2026, Honda warned that it was heading towards something it had never reported in its entire history as a public company: a full-year loss. 2 months later, that loss became official. Not since 1957, the year it first sold shares to the public, had this company closed a year in the red. It survived the oil shocks, it survived the 2008 crash, it survived the earthquake and the tsunami in 2011, because even when the car business bled, the motorcycles kept it in the black. And a major part of that loss came from a decision Honda made deliberately. Honda canceled the Zero SUV, the Zero Saloon, and the Acura RSX, 3 North American electric vehicles that were already deep into development. Then it turned its future toward hybrids, knowing that what it decides next could determine whether it survives the coming electric transition or falls permanently behind. Honda estimated that the total losses connected to its electric strategy reset could eventually reach roughly $16 billion. And the strangest part of this whole story is what Honda's board did afterward to the man who made the original promise. By every normal rule of corporate life, he should have been finished. They did the opposite. Why they did tells you more about where this industry is going than the $16 billion ever will. In April of 2021, Honda had a new chief executive named Toshihiro Mibe. He had been in the job a matter of days, and he made the boldest pledge in the company's history. By 2040, every new Honda sold anywhere on Earth would be electric or hydrogen. No gasoline, no hybrids either. Honda would become the first major Japanese automaker to put a date on the end of the engine. It was a clean, confident, enormous bet. The money followed immediately. Over $1 billion went into retooling 3 plants in Ohio into what Honda called the EV hub. A battery partnership was signed. An $11 billion project was planned for Canada. At the center of all of it sat the Zero Series, unveiled on a stage in Las Vegas in early 2024. It was meant to prove that Honda could build something as advanced as anything coming out of Tesla or China. Then, 5 years in, Honda stopped. Not at the drawing board stage. The plants were retooled. The battery line was coming together. Honda was unusually close to production when it made the decision to quit. Here is the part most people get wrong when they hear this story. They hear that Honda canceled its electric cars, and they picture a company that fell behind, that could not keep up, that got scared of Tesla and ran. The sales figures tell a very different story. In April of 2026, Honda set an all-time April record for hybrid sales in the United States, topping 40,000 units in a single month. 56% of every CR-V sold that month was a hybrid. 54% of every Accord. This was not a company that had run out of good cars. It was a company with more demand than it could serve for the ones that still had an engine in them. So the picture flips. Honda did not cancel its electric vehicles because it could not build them. It canceled them because the thing it was already selling was working better than the thing it was about to launch. Which raises a much harder question. If the hybrids were doing that well, why make the bet at all? Go back to what the world looked like in 2021. Governments were writing the combustion engine an execution date. California, the European Union, country after country, naming the year new gasoline cars would stop being sold. Regulators, investors, and rival boardrooms were largely pointed the same way. The future was electric, and it was arriving fast. In that world, Mibe's pledge was not reckless. It was defensive. A car maker that showed up late to electric risked being shut out of its own biggest markets. Then, the ground moved. In the United States, federal support for electric vehicles was pulled. The tax credits that made the math work for ordinary buyers disappeared. Demand stopped climbing and started falling. In the first quarter of 2026, American electric vehicle sales were down 27% against the year before. And the electric slowdown was not the only thing squeezing Honda. In its own announcement, the company pointed at changes in United States tariff policy, which were cutting into the profitability of the gasoline and hybrid vehicles that had been funding the whole electric program in the first place. So the money coming in got tighter at the same moment the money going out stopped making sense. The bet had not been stupid. The board it was placed on got flipped over halfway through the game. But Honda's biggest problem was not in America. The deeper warning was coming from China. For years, Honda sold cars there on the things it had always been best at: reliability, fuel efficiency, interior space, build quality. Then what Chinese buyers wanted changed underneath them. The competition moved to software, driver assistance systems, screens, features that keep improving after you have already bought the car, developed on cycles measured in months instead of years. Honda said this plainly in its own announcement. In that environment, it had been unable to deliver products offering better value for money than the newer electric manufacturers, and its competitiveness declined. The scale of it is hard to overstate. Honda's share of the Chinese market fell from around 8% in 2020 to under 3% last year. The write-down in America was the headline. China was the deeper cut, and Honda was not alone. Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis had all recorded billions in electric vehicle losses or write-downs. Across the industry, automakers were slowing pure electric plans and redirecting investment back toward hybrids. Then the decision became personal. Toshihiro Mibe did not hide. He stood in front of the press and called the collapse of his own 2040 pledge heartbreaking. He said the target was, in his words, realistically difficult to achieve. Honda's president and executive vice president gave up 30% of their monthly pay for 3 months. Other executives involved in the car business gave up 20%. For the most senior officers, annual compensation fell by roughly a quarter to a third. But something harder was happening behind the scenes. According to a Reuters investigation published in June of 2026, a group of retired Honda executives had been meeting privately since late 2025. Over months of text messages, meetings, and meals that sometimes included serving executives, they built a case against him. Reuters reviewed a written summary of those discussions and interviewed 2 participants. They blamed Mibe for neglecting China and for a failed bet on electric vehicles. One complaint in particular says a lot about how Japanese car makers think. They accused him of not going to the Genba. It is a word that means the actual place. The factory floor, the showroom, the spot where the real work happens. In their telling, senior management, including the chief executive, was not going there. China was the example they used. In April, Nobuhiko Kawamoto, a former Honda chief executive then 90 years old, walked into the Tokyo headquarters and told Mibe to resign. Mibe refused. The board and its nominating committee kept him. By keeping Mibe, Honda appeared to be saying that the strategy itself was not the only mistake. The timing and Honda's slow response once conditions changed may have mattered just as much. Which leaves one question Honda has still not answered and may not be able to. If the bet was right and only the timing was wrong, what happens when the timing finally becomes right? For now, the answer is a plan that runs almost exactly opposite to the one Honda started the decade with. The money is going into a new generation of hybrid powertrains, with Honda targeting a cost reduction of roughly 30%. The Ohio plant, built for an electric future that is not arriving on schedule, was designed from the beginning to switch between gasoline, hybrid, and electric on the same line. So the retreat is not quite a retreat. The factory is building what people are actually buying. And this is where Honda's new strategy becomes dangerous. Honda is treating hybrids as a bridge, one that could carry the company through the rest of this decade while it decides when and how to return to electric vehicles. But a bridge is not a destination. Somewhere out past 2030, the electric transition is still expected to arrive. Slower than promised, but arriving. When it does, the companies that own their batteries and their software will be the ones holding the advantage. Honda has just paid an enormous price for moving too early. The whole plan now rests on judging a second date correctly after getting the first one wrong. The same decision saving Honda today could hurt it tomorrow. Honda has been one of the most trusted names in the history of the automobile, built on a simple idea: build an engine better than anyone else, and never break down. In 2026, it bet against its own engine, lost, and then bet on it again. It went 69 years without ever losing money. Whether this year turns out to be the start of a recovery or the first crack in something larger depends entirely on a question nobody can answer yet. Did Honda just make the most honest decision in the car industry, admitting a mistake while it still had time to fix it? Or did it just spend $16 billion proving it no longer knows which way the future is going? The engine bought it another decade. What Honda does with that decade is the whole story now.